Zinedine Zidane was born on June the 23rd, 1972, to a family of 5. Zidane went from the poor son of Algerian immigrants to one of the most popular French footballers of all time. In today's video, we'll be looking at the life of Zinedine Zidane with the aim to use his life story to inspire young people who may be discouraged about life. We hope this video gives you the courage you need to believe in yourself and pursue your biggest dreams. If you're new here, consider subscribing so that you won't miss other interesting videos like this. Zidane's parents immigrated to France from northern Algeria almost 20 years before his birth. His father worked as an overnight department store guard, and they lived in the crime-ridden housing development area filled with alarming high suicide rates and unemployment. In fact, their house was so small that not all 7 family members could sit down to eat at the same time. As a result, Zidane spent a lot of his time outside the house. At the age of 5, the young boy was introduced to the world of football. Together with his friends in the neighbourhood, Zidane played football at the main square of the housing area. For his friends at the time, football was just a sport to pass the time and forget their troubles at home. But for Zidane, football was a quest to end the poverty that plagued his family. He looked up to many Olympic players, and his love for football shaped his journey to success. It wasn't long before his early start and passion for the sport caught the eye of notable football personnel. When he turned 10, Zidane bagged his first player license for the junior team of one of the local clubs in the city. Despite the dangers on the rough streets, Zidane continued to perfect his skills. However, his time in the club was short-lived. As the only Algerian immigrant in the club, he became a constant subject of mockery and racial slurs regarding his ghetto origins by both his mates and his opponents. But Zidane turned a deaf ear and chose to ignore them. 2 years later, he took a bold step and opted for a different club, the SO Saint-Le-Vallon. When he turned 13, Zidane was signed on the junior Cannes club team. A year later, the young boy was working as a ball boy instead of on the field during the famous France-Portugal European Cup playoff game. It wasn't until another 3 years that Zidane finally joined the Cannes elite squad. It was here that his deaf ears to the racist comments of his mates came to an end. Zidane finally lost his cool and fought with those that insulted him and where he came from. Most of the time he was punished and would spend most of his early senior career weeks on cleaning duty as punishment. However, by 1989, Zinedine quickly became the focal point of the team's defence. Even as a rangy midfielder, no one could deny his exceptional upper body strength and footwork skills, which were complemented by his superior field vision. In 1991, at the age of 19, Zidane was promised a car by the Cannes club president if he scored his first goal for the club. His hard work, practice and perseverance finally paid off as he scored his first competitive goal against Nantes in a match that Cannes narrowly won by 2-1. The club president fulfilled his promise and gifted the young upstart his first car, a bright red Clio. Zidane's career wasn't all rosy. In the early 1990s, he signed up with the Bordeaux club, and his performance there caught the attention of Juventus of Turin, an elite Italian team. With Zidane on their team, Juventus went on to win 5 championships, including international games, in only 3 years. Unfortunately, while screams of joy raged abroad, back in his home country, Zidane was having trouble pleasing the French media, who labelled him the Black Cat. The media accused Zidane of playing terribly in important games like the Champions League, which usually featured a lot of the top club teams across Europe. Despite the media hating on him, Zidane remained popular in local Marseille, the neighbourhood he grew up in, and he would often return to it during his breaks from football, which goes to show that no matter how successful you are or how successful you're trying to be, you cannot please everyone. Zidane took solace in the arms of his wife, Veronique Fernandez, a model and dancer whom he met when he was 17 while playing in the 1988 to 1989 season for the Cannes Club. They got married 5 years later in 1994, and Veronique would come to be known as the wife of one of the greatest football players in history and the mother of 4 adorable children who would go on to be considerably involved in the world of soccer themselves. To compound their happiness, that year, 2004, was the year that Zidane was first named the best young footballer in France. It was also the year he would make his debut in international competition, with 2 goals against the Czech Republic in less than 20 minutes. By this time, it was already very clear that Zinedine was the midfielder general that France had been looking for to fill in the shoes of the long-retired Michel Platini. Zidane was celebrated far and wide, and his name was on the lips of everyone. Not long after, as France celebrated Zinedine's involvement in the World Cup victory, many observers noted the multi-ethnic nature of his team in a time of serious racial strife. An observer in London's Guardian wrote, "There were many Arabs and blacks in the crowd, and many of them were carrying tricolour flags." Now, in the mid-1990s, the far-right president of the National Front Party, Jean-Marie Le Pen, a man who was known for his stubborn anti-immigration views, railed at the French team for its inability to sing the national anthem. The team was spitefully called Black, White, Blue, because most of the players were not strictly speaking French. To make matters worse, before the World Cup, Le Pen and many other political leaders indiscriminately fanned the flames of dissatisfaction with Zinedine and his teammates on account of their race. However, after the World Cup triumph, Le Pen changed his tune as he joined in the celebration and even publicly spoke about national unity. It was a funny sight indeed. No matter how much your enemies strive against you, once you begin to produce results, they will eventually bow to your ideals. Then poor racist victim was suddenly gaining recognition and awards to his name. In 1998, Zinedine earned the Player of the Year award from the body that governed world football, FIFA. 2 years later, in 2000, he earned the same honour, and another 3 years later, he earned the honour again. In Spain, Zidane signed a 4-year contract with Real Madrid. This was in 2001, and his transfer fee of $86 million became the highest ever seen at the time. In 2004, Zinedine announced his retirement, but returned to football a year later. Not long after, a month before the Germany World Cup in 2006, Zidane announced that the tournament would be his last, making his retirement permanent. As a response to this, a writer, Daci, would comment, "He's always unique and often surprising." If you want to succeed, remember that hard work, perseverance, patience, and a passion for your ideals are the ingredients that will pave the way to your success, as they did for Zidane.